Hello, welcome to this very special edition of the Jim Kleiber Show, the post debate number one reflection show. So this is because I sit and watch, I just watched the debate, and watching the debate, I typically get a lot of emotions and want to talk about it with somebody and don't want to just sit and watch people on CNN talk or people on MSNBC or people on Fox or NBC or chit chat with people on Twitter too much. I think there is more reflection that we could do, and I think we could reflect on deeper levels than just blaming each other and talk about who is at fault. So I'm going to do this a lot more relaxed and casually than I normally do. I'm going to tell everyone that I'm live. I wonder if people know that I'm live. And yeah, not sure if I'll put this up on the podcast, but we can see. Oh, I'm live now. I see the video on YouTube and Facebook. So, I think one of the things that for me that was really important with this debate was just whether they followed the rules. Did they follow the rules of the debate? I think one of the most clear rules was that at certain points of the debate, the moderator, Chris Wallace, was going to ask a question, and that each candidate was going to have 2 minutes to respond. So one candidate would respond for 2 minutes, and then the next candidate would, after that first candidate finished, the next candidate would respond for 2 minutes. And it was a shit show. Trump repeatedly interrupted, the moderator repeatedly interrupted Biden in the 2-minute time over and over and over again. And Biden did it as well. I think Trump did it many more times than Biden did, but Biden did it as well. For me, the difference was in how they recovered after they interrupted. So when Trump would interrupt, he would get louder and louder and louder and keep interrupting and try to talk over the other person over and over and over and over again and just get louder and just keep going like this and just keep going. It's like, whoa. Biden, when he would interrupt and got called out by it, especially when he got called out by it by the moderator, sometimes would go, oh, and stop and then go quiet. I think one time he even said, oh, sorry. And for me, that's it. We're going to occasionally break the rules. We're not always going to stay in the bounds of society. But when we break them, have the awareness to recognize that we broke them and that we're stepping on someone else's toes, that we're stepping over our boundaries, and to step back and say, oops, I went too far. Please continue. It's just this decency. I don't know if that's the word. It's just the awareness of crossing boundaries into someone else. And a lot of my work is talking about consent. A lot of my work is talking about recognizing how I feel, but also recognizing how somebody else feels and trying to respect if somebody feels this way and wants this, or somebody does not want a certain thing, to back up and to recognize when we go overboard and we hurt somebody. Oh, decorum, that's the word. There we go. We got a little comment from Jake Clark here. Decorum, exactly. Talking about how do we set aside certain rules and agree to these rules. And if we don't abide by these rules, how can we abide by other rules that we set in society? These are the unwritten rules that we have. Decorum is that we give space to the other person to show up and to say what they want to say, even if we disagree with it, because we will have our turn to speak. It's just, it can't. My friend Jake Clark tapped in here and said decorum and gave a little smiley face, and brings warmth to my heart because I was a part of a program that Jake has run called Save a Warrior. And what I really loved about that program was teaching us to process our own trauma and process our own pain so that when we show up in the world with other people, we show up with other people in a way that's not adding to their pain. And I just, listen, I don't think Biden is perfect by any means. I think he has some very strong qualities that are going to bring this country together, but I don't think he's perfect. But Trump was just saying that, oh, these people they hate you, they're against you, they don't care about you, everything is a fraud, everything is rigged, everything's cheating, oh, it's a coup, crooked Hillary, this, that. I was like, whoa. There's a part of me that wants to get really angry, and there's a part of me that tries to step back and say, this man thinks the world is out to get him, and to try to have some compassion for him. I don't want him to be the president, but how can I step back and see that he's still a human being, and to see the signs? Not the signs of like somebody going crazy or like some other, some demeaning term that we could give to him, but just maybe the signs of somebody that's going through a lot. And it reminds me of like his former campaign manager, Brad Parscale, was just found in his house, I think with a rifle or with a gun, with a shirt off, gun like loaded, maybe hitting his wife or threatening to kill himself, and got arrested. And I don't wish that upon anyone. And so what I saw with Trump tonight, it was, I don't wish that upon him. I wish that he saw the world and didn't see that the world was against him, that there was so much fraud or so much conspiracy to overthrow him. It's just the poor guy. I'm not trying to say I'm better. I mean, we all go through different phases of life, right? But it's just, what does it mean when we have a leader that is going through that emotionally versus having a leader who's going through something else emotionally? I mean, it ripped into me when Joe Biden started to talk about his son who'd passed away, Bo. Now, in a debate standpoint, like, it could be a trick. He's trying to say, oh, I'm going to talk about my son and it's going to get me some sympathy points. But still, the man's talking about his son who died, who served overseas for this country, and who came back and later died from cancer. And then to immediately jump in and attack that man's other son and say that his son is corrupt, his son is crooked, he's cheating, he's lying, he's it's like, just 1 second, just breathe and let that moment land. You can come back. There's a time to throw the punch. You don't have to throw the punch immediately. Just let it sit. I don't know. How do we just sit back and not punch each other all the time? I think we have this really, really distorted view of strength. It really frustrates me. I think we see strength as if you run away, you're a wuss and you're weak. Because if you're actually strong, you punch. You're the really strong guy, the one that's punching and beating the other person. I don't think that's strength. I think it's weakness in both ways. The person who runs away is afraid and is running. The person who hits is afraid and he's punching. The person who stands there and takes the punches and doesn't punch back, that's strength. You know, the person who really scares me and really gains my respect is the person that I punch over and over again and they don't run away and they don't hit me back. Ha! That person who seems almost invincible, that is dangerous to me. That person is very, 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 very strong. Because it doesn't take a lot of strength to punch. What takes a lot of strength is restraint. Holding back sometimes, and not, when we feel hurt, not making the other person feel even more hurt. Not trying to bring that person down to our pain. That's strength. Strength is resolving our own pain, pulling it together, working with other people, resolving our conflicts, apologizing, That's strength. Strength is not standing up in front of the nation and telling the world how it's all falling apart and everyone's against me. That's not strength. That's fear. That's terror. That's paralysis in many ways. And then attacking. That's not strength. This is something I learned. I was reading this book. It's one of the books I love the most lately. And I'm going to recommend it to Jake if he's still following, and a couple other people who are watching. But I believe it's called The Protector Ethic. And in the book, the author talks about being in a martial arts class. And he says he was in a martial arts class, and the sensei told him to protect this woman from this attacker. And so he jumps in, and he grabs the attacker, and he like flips him around. He throws him on the ground, and he's got them all like tied up in a lock. And he's feeling really proud of himself. Yeah, I protected that woman. And then at that moment, he turns around and sees that there's another attacker who goes after the woman. And then the sensei or the master says to him, I told you to protect her. I didn't tell you to attack him. Protection is jumping in and standing in front of that person and taking the blows, covering that person with our body and taking the blows. It's not attacking the other person. And so I wish we had definitions of strength like this. The one who sucker punches a guy or hits him over the head with a chair is not strength. It doesn't take strength to escalate a conflict. It takes strength to resolve a conflict. Unfortunately, many of us haven't seen a lot of examples of this, of conflict resolution. What I say a lot is, growing up in a household, many of us see our parents or caretakers either escalate conflict or avoid conflict. So they get into a fight in front of us, and then it just goes away, or they start to get into a fight and they just ignore it. What we don't see is that they often resolve the conflict, but it often happens in a bedroom. We don't see our parents resolve conflict very often. And we see families split apart, and we see all this conflict either get avoided or get escalated. And so we don't have a lot of examples for that third path of not what do they call it, fight or flight. We don't have the conflict for like resolve, for standing. And that's what I want to see. I want to see a leader who stands there and resolves, who says, listen, you can punch me all you want. You can attack my son. You can attack my ethics. You can attack my intelligence. You can attack my age. You can attack anything about me that you want. I'm not going to punch back. We're all here trying our best. This is a hard job to do. And I don't envy anyone who's in this position. This is a tough thing to do. Gosh. Or, when he attacks the son, when he attacks and goes in and says, your hunter's doing this, hunter's doing that, stand there and say, you know how much it hurts to think that so many people across this country hate my son for something that I don't think he did? You know how much it hurts to stand here as a father and have someone belittle your son and attack his motives on national television? Show the pain. Stand there, show the pain, open up more. That's what I want to see. Oh, man. So I see some comments there about restraint, here, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, resolve. Amen, Jake. Yeah, I'm sitting here talking to the camera. If there is anyone who's in the comments wants to join, it's very simple. You can just say, I want to join, and then I can actually send you a link to join in. Maybe a little terrifying to join in on a live call, but we don't have too many viewers right now, so it's not so bad. But I'd really like to hear from other people and hear what their perspectives are. How did this make you feel? When you're looking through this, when you're watching the debate, what were you actually feeling during the debate? Were you feeling joy? Were you feeling anger? Were you feeling fear? Were you feeling kind of annoyed or just frustrated or just overwhelmed? What were you feeling? Hope? Was anyone feeling hope? Oops, I got the wrong discomfited. Yeah. Got the wrong date on there, so I'm just going to take the date off. Let's see. Can I take the date off? Let me just add a new date. And I got the September 29, but we are now officially September 30. Voila. Look at this platform rocking and rolling. Yeah, not so much hope. Gosh, what was I feeling? I was feeling... It was the frustration of... I haven't been in too many debates. I haven't been the presidential candidate in debate. I haven't been in like school debates and stuff like that. But I have been the moderator, the facilitator for many, many workshops and events and sessions and things like this. And one thing that frustrates me so much is when I'm trying to run a workshop and people have agreed to the rules of the workshop and then they don't follow them. I get so annoyed. There's a part of me that's like, it's so simple. You said you would do this. It's just 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. I understand you're going to make a mistake, but I'm here to make sure that you recognize when you go over time or when you recognize when you interrupt. That's it. Just 2 minutes. Please just respect me. Man. The one, I asked about hope, and maybe a lot of us didn't feel hope in it, but I guess what I felt hopeful for afterwards is that when I was looking online on Facebook and Twitter and even watching CNN and some of the shows, MSNBC, even on Fox and maybe even on Newsmax, which seems to have a stronger conservative bent or a more like Trump bent to it, a lot of people were talking about how this debate was an embarrassment, aka a lot of people felt embarrassed. Right? We can talk about embarrassment as a noun, but really it's more of a feeling that we're feeling in the moment. So a lot of people, I think, felt embarrassed watching this, which says to me that a lot of us have expectations that are higher than this. We expect, as Jake said before and others have said before, a certain level of decorum in how our presidents are going to interact with each other on a national stage. We may not expect the same thing of ourselves, but when the whole world is watching, we really many of us want them to be our best examples, our best representatives, not just in terms of their policies, but also in terms of their behaviors and their communication styles. Because at the end of the day, we don't see the policies directly. We see how they communicate directly. More and more so nowadays with the internet and all these platforms. I don't know. I had a conversation with a friend earlier, my friend James D'Angelo. We talked earlier this afternoon about the secret to fixing Congress and talking about this idea of having secret votes or secret committees in Congress, closing the doors on the committees in Congress so that the lobbyists and the outside influences can't micro-track, like a micro-target all the things that are happening in Congress. And it made me think just so much about how emotionally draining and taxing it is to be a public official. Goodness. It's one thing to get attacked in a private conversation. It's another thing to get attacked on national television. There's just so much mudslinging and so much calling each other stupid or calling each other crooked or calling each other. It's like, come on now. Come on. I don't know. I'm still trying to learn this live stream thing. I see a couple comments. We got a little likes, a couple things like that. I don't know what's working. Anyway, is anybody out there? Twitter, Facebook, what do we got? Yeah, I can't remember where I was reading it. This is maybe one of the problems of the internet these days, but I remember somebody was talking about on Twitter that the thing is, democracy is not just about the law. Democracy is also about restraint. because having power is also about restraint and not using the power all the time. Wow. I think they were talking about Mitch McConnell being in the majority leader in the Senate, and this idea that when you have power, one of the strongest things to do is restrain. Wow. So, oh, Jake, you're touching my soul. It must be from this nice little juice I have right here. But it's a very Michigan drink we got going on right now. It is some apple cider from a beautiful apple orchard that we went to the other day. And so we got some fresh apple cider with some sparkling water and some non-Michigan rum. Where's the rum from? Bacardi's from Puerto Rico, I think. Puerto Rico. You know, I laugh sometimes when people are like, "Oh, the globalists, this, that." I'm like, do you understand that almost all the alcohol in the world comes from other countries? Like do people like Scotch? Because Scotch doesn't come from the U.S. Do people like champagne? Champagne's from France. Do people like rum? Rum's from Caribbean. Do people like this? Do people like that? Do you realize? Like, I worked in a liquor store for a little bit. Do you know how many of those products don't come from the U.S.? Like, do you understand how globalized this world is, whether we want it to be or not? Do you know that I'm using a platform? I don't even know where this company is. I think I signed up for a web app the other day that's based out of the UK or somewhere in Europe. I don't know. This could be developed by people in Japan or who knows where. The world is really... Bacardi's from Cuba? No, officially maybe. Jake says Bacardi, or Caleb says Bacardi's from Cuba. No, because we weren't allowed to have anything from Cuba. No, I can't, because we had the laws against Cuba. Is it Bacardi? No. Anyways, hold on. I feel like Stephen Colbert now is sitting here having a late night show. Probably at the same time he's having his, sipping on some rum. Hey. You know, oh man, Caleb's throwing the details. Bacardi is founded on February 4th. Aha, founded. Now, is it still? I don't need to nitpick over it. It's delicious. Oh man, like, I wonder how many of us read something on Twitter. Jake says I need a stiff drink after that attack. I mean, debate. Yeah. I wonder how many of us need something like this after a debate. Maybe we're living by ourselves, or maybe we're living with some other family members or friends, and it's like watching a movie and nobody talks about it after the movie. Like, I'm a person who wants to reflect after something. I love reflecting after things. And so for me to watch a debate like this and just go to bed, I go crazy. And if people in my house are starting to go to bed, I try to, like, hey, no, but let's talk about this. Hey, let's, like, come on, no, this is a really interesting topic. Let's keep going. And it doesn't normally work. Or if it does, they seem to be frustrated. But I think that's one of the purposes, or one of the reasons why I like doing the show. Now, I've done, 32 episodes of the show, 1 o'clock each day, Monday through Friday. Maybe 1 o'clock's not the right time. I don't know. Maybe it needs to be later in the day after we reflect on things that have happened in the day. But one thing I really like about the show is to give space for me and others to reflect on what's happening in the news, to reflect on it a little more deeply, not just at the superficial level of, again, blaming somebody or talking about the symptoms of it, but really trying to dig into what we might be feeling, what I might be feeling, what other people might be feeling, and try to, again, reach some type of resolution on it. It just seems like so much of our media is very projective. Like, just all of us, blah, 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 blah. I'm cognizant that I'm blah, blah, blahing at the screen right now. But so much of us just splashing all of our emotion on everyone else. If I feel afraid, I just make you all feel afraid. If I feel angry, I put you into a fit of rage. How much of this is really just giving ourselves the space to pause and to reflect and to try to understand, why am I feeling this way? What about this conversation frustrated me so much? What about this gave me hope? What about this confused me? What about this made me feel embarrassed? Where did I feel hopeless? I mean, I felt embarrassed when I thought about people from other countries watching this and rolling their eyes at America. I felt hope when I saw the people having that same feeling of embarrassment, that I'm not alone feeling embarrassed about this. I felt hopeless when I thought about, actually didn't feel, a little hopeless when I thought about Trump changing his behavior, to be honest. I felt very annoyed at the moderator, not the moderator. I really appreciated, actually. I felt very grateful for what Chris Wallace was doing, and how he was standing up and trying to moderate, and that he raised his voice at some points, because I appreciate that. I don't think we should always stay silent. I think we can raise our voice to stand firm. I felt grateful that there were people on Twitter watching along. I felt grateful that people still care. One of the worst things that can happen to this democracy is actually worse than the anger. It's the apathy. It's the indifference. It's the tuning out and say, it's done. I don't really care about this anymore. Once we get to that point, it's actually quite dangerous. I think a lot of us, once we numb ourselves off that much or get so disconnected from it, that's when we start disconnecting from life. I mean, that's when people start becoming more suicidal or homicidal or addicted to drugs or addicted to painkillers or addicted to video games or addicted to porn or addicted to our phones or TikTok or stuff like this. A lot of it is just feeling so much pain or so much struggle in our lives and trying to numb it. So I'm really grateful that there's a handful of people watching here and tuning in, that so many people are communicating with each other on Twitter and on Facebook. Gosh, they're posting on Facebook. I got comments from, one of the guys that was a really close friend of mine growing up since I was like 5. I got comments from long lost cousins down in Alabama. I got comments from my uncle. I got comments from a friend of mine who I met at a conflict resolution training in Germany. She's from Bosnia and I think lives in the US now. I got comments from, quite the mix of people from the Save Warrior group that I was a part of. So military vets who have come back and are returning vets. And just really grateful that we're staying in the conversation. One of the hardest things to do in conflict is to stay in the conversation. It's much easier to run away from it or to blow it up. To stay in there, to stay in the fight is really hard. I'm not saying this is an easy thing for our leaders to do. I'm not saying this is an easy thing for us to do in our daily lives. But it can really help us so much. How many times do we regret running away or walking away from a conversation? How many times do we regret escalating it and blowing it up? I think we need to, let me speak from myself. I believe that one of the best things I can do for my own health is to stay in the conversation, to keep loving the other person even if they're attacking me, to keep opening my heart and showing them my humanity, telling people, instead of saying Trump is an idiot and he's this and that, telling people why I don't like Trump. I don't like Trump because he displays behaviors of someone that really hurt me in the past. I was running a company with a friend, and he was the manager of the company, and he embezzled money. And he was the person who sold us the dream and said everything was fine, everything's fine, we're doing great things, everything is fantastic, oh, absolutely perfect, everything, blah, blah. And then the money disappeared and the company fell apart. And the challenge is to forgive him and love him and to stay in the fight, to stay in the relationship. I learned my lesson. I don't want him to run the company, but I'm still friends with him. I'm not going to go into another business with him probably, but I still care about the guy. It took me years to get to that point, and I want to get better at forgiving people faster. And I just wish these were the conversations we were having when we talk about politics. The conversations of how we actually resolve the conflict together. How do we come back together tangibly, tactically, not just selling the dream. Sell the dream, but sell the action and the strategy for doing it. And sell it by doing it yourself. I don't know, it amazed me watching this, and I heard Trump say the word unity once, and I was actually shocked. I didn't expect him to say unity. I heard Biden talking about asking people to vote and saying that you can vote and your vote matters. What you do with the vote has an impact on this country. And it almost felt like he was a coach telling me that I am more powerful than I think I am. Whereas what I heard with Trump was that everything is rigged against me and everyone's cheating against me and the world doesn't want me to win. It's almost the opposite. It was almost the feeling I got was this powerlessness that I can't do much to change things in my life, to change my situation. So, I don't know. What a weird format, me just talking into the camera. I appreciate my friends who've chimed in. Oh, we got 7-6. Oh, yeah. But I appreciate Jake said a comment about me helping him think and reflect tonight. And that's feels like a job well done. I think we can put pressure on ourselves sometimes to change and impact so much of the world. But sometimes just knowing that you had impact on one person can be enough. And to see we have a new guest from Twitter. I don't know who the person is, but hello, guest from Twitter, who said that it was sad to listen to a debate like that. Yeah. It's the sadness. I didn't talk about that when I was talking about the emotions, but some people are laughing. Oh, from Canada. Oh, thank you for chiming in from Canada. But the sadness of it. Some friends were posting on Facebook, and I saw, and people were like, "Oh, laughing, haha, the comedy of this." And I understand that sometimes when we're going through really traumatic things or stressful things, we start laughing and we go into comedy. It's okay. We all process it differently, but for me, I felt a lot of sadness in this. It's like, really? Really? It's, the person says, sad for democracy. And yeah, I agree. It's like, democracy is a process. If we stop paying attention to the process and we stop paying attention to the people, we don't have democracy. Democracy isn't really the laws that are written on the paper. Yeah, the laws matter. But if we don't enforce the laws, then we're not living a democratic life, not having a democratic society. And it's not just the laws on the paper. It's all the norms and the expected behaviors we have of each other. If we don't do these things, if we don't align with the decorum that we expect, then we don't have a rule of law, a rule of ethics. We don't have the democracy, and but you know what? Sometimes it takes seeing something like this to realize what we're losing for us to come together. And again, I think that's the thing that gives me the most hope out of this debate, is that many people saw this throughout the US and in Canada and in other parts of the world and probably felt very embarrassed by what was happening. And that says to me that the embarrassment says that we expect better and we want better. And that has a redeeming quality to me. It feels gives some sense of redemption, some sense of hope and optimism for the future. So I'm going to chime out, but I'm just going to say thank you all for joining in. I've kind of talked myself out, but maybe we'll do this on another debate one, and maybe this is better to do at night than at 1 o'clock when people are working and Europe is starting to sleep. Maybe, live television, live stuff is it's a tricky pony to handle, but there's something about having a coalescing event like the debate where a lot of people are watching TV to do something like this. So thanks for chiming in, y'all, and I bid you a farewell and have a good night, and I have to go finish my apple cider. Ciao.